Okay, we have started streaming on YouTube and we are recording.
We did have, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it was.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Good morning, Rebecca.
I also have the grounds around it.
All right, everyone, good morning. We will get ready to call this meeting to order. This is the time and the place of the June 11th meeting of the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees. Carrie, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes.
Bunny.
Here.
Pantera. Here. Kuzinski.
Here.
Lemons.
Here.
All board members present.
Thank you. And Jessica, did we have an introduction or recognition this morning?
Three staff members who I'll introduce will be presenting later this morning with an educational item. So hiding behind the column that I'm having trouble seeing from our colonistic branch, Ellie Epperson and Mindy Peterson, who will be presenting on 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten. And then Sarah Manning is also there. Sarah Manning is here as well. She's with our collection development team, and she will be talking about our early literacy kits. But I believe that everybody else on staff is known to the board.
Excellent.
Then we do have a recognition of Rebecca. This is your last Board of Trustee meeting, and we just wanted to start with sharing some highlights of the work that you have done to support the library and to engage with staff and the public. And we would be remiss if we did not have a picture of you with the bubbles. So in the upper left-hand corner, this was Rebecca's favorite part about vouchers was making sure that we had appropriate bubbles for the end of music and movement. And we just want to thank you again, Rebecca, for everything that you have done for the library, for the community, and for the Board of Trustees.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Oh, I love it. Thank you all. Okay, well, moving on. We have no communication items this morning, so we will move forward with our minutes approval. If we could have a motion to approve the minutes from the May 14th meeting, unless there's any discussion, questions, or need for changes.
I move acceptance of the minutes as presented.
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Kamal,
Yes.
Bunny,
Yes.
Clint, Tara. Yes. Kuzinski,
Yes.
Lemons,
Yes,
all in favor, motion carries.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved in a single motion. A trustee may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any questions or comments about the consent agenda for today? Okay, if not, I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kamal,
Yes.
Bunny,
Yes.
and Tara. Yes. Kuzinski,
Yes.
Lemons,
Yes,
all in favor, motion carries.
thank you. Moving on to reports. This morning, we will have a report from Kirsten Ocker, the Friends of the Boise Public Library President. Welcome, Kristen. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We had a sale this last weekend. It was quite successful. We made a total of $9,000. 500 goes to the state for taxes. And and we're just planning for when the main floor closes. And I think that's about all that's going on.
Thank you. Any questions for Kirsten? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Kirsten. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Moving on to report from the foundation, we have Camille Franks, our Boise Public Library Foundation Chair. Welcome, Camille.
Thanks, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. We also have a short update this month. The foundation is currently working on our events taking place later this year, including the Boise Comic Arts Festival support and our end-of-year fundraising campaign. Our next meeting is tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Camille. We appreciate you. Moving on to the director's report from Jessica.
Thank you. Just a couple updates for you. Summer reading has officially kicked off with the theme Color Our World. So I'm sure you've seen in our locations the bright displays, the books that are available for people when they sign up or complete their reading. And so we are really excited again to have a very successful launch at Jump in May. Huge credit to the team that basically overnight realized that event would need to move indoors because of weather, and we're able to pull that off. But we are really in a great spot with our summer reading program to date. I wanted to give you an update on the Board of Trustees. I'm pleased to share that the mayor will ask council to confirm the new Board of Trustee member during their June 24th council meeting. And the mayor has selected Evelyn Johnson to serve on the board. Evelyn serves currently as the Vice President of Research at Riverside Insights, which is an educational assessment company focused on supporting student growth and learning. Prior to her role with Riverside Insights, she was a professor at Boise State University and the executive director of the Lee Pesky Learning Center. So we're bringing someone onto the board with a lot of experience in improving early literacy and for children across the state and here in Boise. And personally, she's lived in Boise since 2007. So her family has grown up in our libraries, and she's got a real strong sense of community and connection. And like I said, is really excited about being on the board with that focus particularly on equitable access to literacy platform. So her confirmation will be on the 24th. If confirmed, her first meeting will be with you on July 9th. And then I just wanted to highlight a couple things that are coming up in some of the upcoming Board of Trustee meetings. In July, we'll have really two things that we'll focus on with you. We're going to do an update on the first floor renovation project that will share more about the schedule and particularly focus on where we think we'll need to have board approval for some of the closures related to that upgrade. And then we'll also ask our collection development team to do a educational session on world languages. I know that's been something that you have asked for a while, so we will make sure we've got that scheduled. And then in August, we'll be bringing the facility plan. And we're actually hoping to bring Group 4 back to Boise for that discussion with you all. And that will give us a chance to have an in-depth conversation on that. And then we will also be scheduling a joint work session between council and board again this year, probably in October or so. I think that was such an important discussion that we had last December to make sure we have alignment with council and board as we started that facility planning work. And now it'll be great to have you guys all have a discussion as we move forward with that plan in place. And that is my director update.
Any questions or comments for Jessica? Okay, thank you so much. This month we have no requests for consideration, so we will move on to our educational items. We have first a presentation on 1,000 books before kindergarten from Mindy Peterson, our librarian principal, and Ellie Epperson, our librarian senior.
And I'll just set both of these presentations from staff. We're really excited to bring this for you and the community. These are two sort of connected efforts led by library staff that are really supporting early literacy. And as you go back, I will take away Nikki's talking point. This was so much from our strategic plan about really hearing from the community, wanting the library to lead in this space. And we have a goal about elevating literacy and lifelong learning for Boise residents. I mean, I think it's, early literacy is particularly important. We know that early childhood education is linked to later academic success and lifelong positive outcomes. And in Idaho, it's a real challenge. 64% of Idaho's 3 and 4-year-olds are not in any formal pre-K program where they're exposed to early literacy concepts. We know that roughly half the kids in Idaho who start kindergarten are not ready to read. And we know that that number is actually higher for kids who are growing up in poverty or growing up in households with adults with low literacy. So this is really where we have a huge opportunity to make a lifelong difference. And so this is the work that the program team has really been focused on. And with that, I'm going to kick it off or hand it off to Mindy and Ellie to talk more about this particular program and what work that they're leading for the system.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Thanks for having us. I'm Mindy and this is Ellie. We're both librarians at the Colvin Ustick branch. And we are here to talk with you about the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program. Carrie, is it okay if I just... Okay, supposed to be. Okay, great. Sorry. Wonderful. No, this is perfect. Okay, this is our cute little logo that the city's design team helped us come up with. So the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program really came out of this foundation called the 1,000 Books Foundation. They help support libraries and other organizations across the country to be ready to put this program on in their communities. The objective is to encourage parents and caregivers to read with their young ones with the specific goal of hitting 1,000 books between birth and kindergarten. And that helps support the kiddos' development of their early literacy skills. What are early literacy skills, you might be asking? It's kind of an umbrella term that we use to describe the knowledge and skills that kids need to gain before they're ready to read and write. The development is happening from birth till 5. I think it's helpful to think of it as the building blocks for their reading ability and then future learning. It happens at home, but also out in the community, especially at the library, specifically in our story times. I put the early literacy concepts down here. I'm happy to talk about those if you have questions, maybe once we get a little more info about this program. So talking about early literacy and the ways Boise Public Library is working on that in our community, every week through the 5 different locations, we're running 24 different programs. Those are story times, music and movement programs, outdoor programs. We also do lots of outreach with this age group. That 635 is just an average over a couple of months, which, as you can see, is like a lot of kids this age. But I also think that there is room for us to grow. So adding this program in helps us kind of expand what we're doing for this really important age group to get their skills up where they need to be to get ready to read. And then we also know that while we serve a ton of families in our community, there are folks that we're not really reaching and who aren't using the library. So we're really excited to get to do with this program some outreach specifically to those groups.
Yeah, so one of the more exciting parts about this program too is that we were, before Mindy and I took over this project, our sprint team did some really excellent work and laid a lot of foundational knowledge for us to work off. And part of that was that the Meridian Library District and the Ada Community Libraries had reached out and said, how can we do a partnership so that we can reach all of our areas, especially in this age group and when it comes to early literacy. So the Boise Public Libraries are partnering with the Meridian Library District, our partner, Gabby Stoller. And then we are partnering with the Ada Community Libraries, Eric and Ricky. And we've been working together to devise a program that is the same across all of our library systems so that a patron who is doing the program could come to Boise or Meridian or Ada and redeem their prizes and have the same experience. And then that way we can also cast a very wide net of trying to gather these families that use a library but also might not use a library and have kids in this area that need this early literacy practice. So the Meridian Library District is going to be coming, and the Ada Community Library District are going to be coming online on September. So we've come up with a program, we have everything in place, and then they are going to start promoting heavily once summer reading ends at their respective libraries. We did a soft launch on May 1st. It's been going really well. We have a bunch of people signed up. We're pushing it at all of our programs. People know to look for the little booklet that we have at all of our programs that have all the different, you can cross off or color in or do stickers on each of their books. And then it lets them know like, hey, you have a prize because you've reached so many books. As far as prizes, we have a variety. We wanted to work with our partners to make sure that we were all on board with what we were giving out, as well as what was financially doable for them as well. The big focus that we all agreed on was that we wanted to give out multiple books in order to have families build a home library, even if they are using the library, because it's important. And we also, knowing that we were going to be doing outreach to reach library or reach patrons that might not be coming to the library, we wanted to be able to give out books. So I have a couple of our book selections. We have 10 different title choices in a variety of difficulties. So we have some picture books, we have some easy readers, and we have some word books for our babies. And the best part about the way that we ordered is that we can always, if there's a title that people aren't really enjoying, the next time we do book ordering, we can pick something different. We also have a fun vinyl sticker that we have.
Also the adults.
Yeah.
For your locker
We have our little rag tags, as well as, this is kind of a placeholder, but we are talking about and working on a custom library card like we do for the Ultimate Book Nerd, where they would earn something that says like 1,000 books before kindergarten at the end of the program. And part of our reaching 1,000 books, we wanted a prize that was a little bit bigger because 1,000 books is a very large goal, and the program is designed to theoretically take multiple years. So we have our, which just came in, our little tote bags with our logo and our partners. A big thank you to the Boise Public Library Foundation for sponsoring these. Yeah. So we have books at 4 different levels, so a total of 4 books over the course of the program. We have a prize at every 100 books, the sticker at 500, and then of course the big prizes, the custom tote bag, or the tote bag and the custom library card. So over the course of the program, they will earn 4 of these books, a variety of titles. Any questions that you might have about the program, we are happy to answer.
Any concern.
I think it looks awesome. Really good work.
Yeah, and we are keeping track with a tracking system that is accessible by all three of the libraries. And we have plans in place to obviously analyze how the program went after the first year, look at the data, kind of find areas where we might be missing people, where we could do more outreach. All of that is in place as well with our partners, and we're going to be talking to them at the end of summer.
Right, so have us back next year.
But my house and my daughter's house, there's a huge e-read component. My kids always did that, and their kids seem to do the same thing. So it's more like 5,000 books read over 5 times.
And if they're participating in this program, every time they reread Goodnight Moon, that counts as a book. So if it's 5 times a day, that's 5 books that day. Yeah. It's not, we don't care about the titles, we don't care about the content, we just want the kids and the caregivers to be reading together.
Yeah.
That's how you build the skills that you need to learn.
We're also tying it into library programming in a sense that our whoever's leading the program is also saying, hey, don't forget, if you came to baby story time today, or about the 3 books that we read, or if you came to preschool story time or any component where there's a book read, hey, make sure you're marking it off on your log for sure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation on early literacy kits from Sarah Manning, our librarian senior for collection development. Welcome, Sarah.
Sarah, librarian here, as you said, and I am going to talk about some early literacy kits that we are going to be adding this year to our collections. So this project was brought to me because we have had kits in the past and they've been somewhat problematic because with a ton of pieces, they often have pieces that go missing, get lost, things with puzzles where it's like, if a piece goes missing, what do you do with that puzzle? Is it broken? Do you take it out? How do you update all of the literature that says what's in that kit? So we have had those in the past. They've been very problematic to keep up with. They're not sustainable for staff. But we have been asked for early literacy kits for a very long time. And this was brought to me having had experience with those kits in the past to see how we could make this work, where it would be both something that is maintainable for staff, but also very meaningful for the community. So we are looking at adding kits for the 6 early literacy skills or concepts, which are, as our 1,000 books before kindergarten team said, letter knowledge, narrative skills, phonological awareness, print motivation, print awareness, and vocabulary. We are looking at changing the names of the kits to be a little more like layman's terms, because those are a little bit aggressive for people who are not in the know of what these are. And we are targeting people who don't necessarily have like early literacy skills like already under their belt. So for letter knowledge, we're looking at ABCs, narrative skills will be storytelling, phonological awareness, fun and sounds, print motivation, loving books, print awareness, using books, and vocabulary will be fun with words. These are all kind of working, so they might change a little bit, but this is kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at targeting 3 age groups. So babies are 0 to 18 months, toddlers are 18 to 36 months, and preschoolers are 3 to 5 years. And so that totals 18 kids across the age ranges and concepts, because each age group will have one of the early literacy skills targeted. Within each kit, Carrie, if you want to move to the next one, that'd be great. I have a sample kit that we put together. These are reusable bags that we circulate for people to use with materials that they check out. We use this as an example of what we could circulate this type of kits in. It might not. We are looking at bags that look like this, but are different colors, so they're more distinguishable. But we're also looking at backpack options, so it's not nailed down yet. But within each kit, we are looking at adding about 3 to 5 different books and on this type of book. This one was an example for letter knowledge for the 18-month to the toddler age range. Sorry, I'm a little scattered on that. But so these ones, we had a few that focused on sensory, tactile sort of books. some that are very just like ABC focused, and a few that are story focused. So each kit we're looking at adding like a few that have different components in it. We're looking at adding a supportive activity that will help with the play component. And we're looking at adding kind of the most important part to me, a parent caregiver guide. These ones we printed out from ICFL, but we are looking at updating them or creating our own in-house. We have talked to ICFL about partnering on updating theirs, and they are on board. But there's also a lot of literature out there that we're looking at. So we're kind of in the discovery phase of what we're adding exactly. But for us, it was really important to have a caregiver or parent guide because as we kind of talked about, early literacy skills are built during that 0 to 5 age range. And it's really on the parent or caregiver to help children build them. A lot of parents and caregivers don't know what the early literacy concepts are. So these are really targeting teaching them what they are, showing them activities and books and how to interact with their kids. A lot of the early literacy activities that go along with that are like talking, singing, reading, writing, and playing. And so a lot of these are just basically guides on like these are things you can do with your children outside of the kids to continue building early literacy skills. So that's basically what they are. If there are any questions, yes.
So what's the time frame do you think you'll have this ready to?
Yes, so we are looking at the next 6 weeks. We're kind of in the decision-making phase. We just finished kind of the discovery phase for materials. I'm hoping we might be able to start getting them out in August. If anything goes wrong, it could be pushed out a little bit, but that's what we're targeting right now.
Thank you.
Has there been any partnership or discussion with Lee Pesky? Now that I have that top of mind, I know they also have some kind of early literacy and how to help parents with some of these early learning concepts. I'd be curious if that was a connection that you've built.
What was the partnership that you mentioned? I didn't quite hear.
Lee Pesky Learning Center.
Oh, no, we haven't reached out to them, but that is something we could look into.
Yeah, I would think they and maybe the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children might have some information that might also be nice to kind of dovetail in with this.
Yeah, no, that would be great. We're trying to not have to rebuild the wheel basically. So we're looking at partnerships and different materials that already exist, but we're also trying to build something that makes sense for what we're trying to accomplish. So I think looking into those would be great and very helpful for us. So thank you.
So I super appreciate that you did the work to come up with different names because the phonological sounds like, ooh, yeah, I don't know what that is, but fun with words, fun with sounds.
Yeah. We wanted
That
to
makes
make
it
more approachable for caregivers and kids so that they could look at the bag and understand what they are, and then we can kind of get into the more details like this is what this actually is and what it does from the literature that we're going to include.
And I also really appreciate the trying to figure out how to make something that's sustainable. So if one book gets chewed up,
Yes.
that's easy to swap out.
Yes.
Yeah. To really have.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of really cool activities that are like a puzzle with 50 pieces, but as soon as one of those pieces goes missing, we can't circulate the puzzle anymore, or we do, but we have to update the guide that says like one piece missing. Staff also has to count each of those pieces to see how many actually come back. It's very time consuming, and as soon as anything goes missing or is damaged, which does happen, it's very difficult to keep up with. So we are targeting a certain number of pieces to go into these bags to make sure that that doesn't happen. And we're looking for activities and books that are easily replaceable and that won't just be broken if one piece goes missing.
And do people check out, or families check out these books similar to, I mean, kids similar to books for the same period of time, or is there any restrictions on how it's being distributed? Or
I don't think we've decided that. I would expect that they'll be checked out for the same period that a book would be checked out, but none of that has been officially decided yet. But we try to keep everything pretty much uniform, so I would expect that.
I would also just connect this to the previous program to say, hey, doing this also counts as part of your 1,000 books before kindergarten. Let's
Yes,
go.
They definitely go hand in hand. So I think it's really great that they're coming out close to each other, and I think that we've worked together to help support each program or the collection.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Next up on the agenda is old business. We're going to do a policy review. We've got two different policy sections to take a look at. The first section is section 4.0, the use of the library. And we've got Heidi Lewis, our public services manager. Hi, Heidi.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for letting me join you today. Rebecca, thank you for your service. We will miss you so much, so thank you. So we're going to talk a little bit about section 4 first. Section 4, which you all reviewed in February, but I have a little bit of context of why we're revisiting it, and then we'll talk about section 6. So we're revisiting portions of section 4 because since February, when you reviewed them, the Links Consortium, we have our new Links administrator, Brad Smith, who we've got to work with for years, and he's been in that new role that we didn't have before, is looking at all kinds of things to improve the system that we're sharing. And one of the ways is really looking at the circulation policies across the different libraries. For all sorts of reasons, they have slightly different approaches to how they're handling things. And Brad identified a number of things that perhaps we could do more similarly or exactly the same, or to make a better experience for users, since we have people visit different libraries across the Charter Valley and receive things like pulled requests from across the valley. So there are a couple of options to align more, or a few options to align more of the patron and material settings in the back end for a better experience for the user. And a few of those then are changing some of the parameters that we have in our policy and regulation. So the first is the 4.02A, and that's a regulation, and that's on page 40 of your packet. And that's asking for temporary cards, for suggesting that we move from 2 to 3 items checked out at one time to match what all of the other libraries are doing in the consortium. So that's the regulation change that we're suggesting. And then for the policy change, that's in the fee section 4.03. That's on page 43 of your packet. And we have 2 changes we're recommending, suggesting for that. One is to change from 20 overdue items, preventing checkout, to 10 overdue items. Again, that's something that all of the other libraries in the consortium, they're already at the 10 or going to be at the 10. And so we want to be in alignment with that. And then that other one in that final paragraph on page 43 is we currently have more than 10, but to be accurate, it needs to be 10 or more. That's another thing that will prevent someone from checking out. In both cases, it helps us recover lost materials. And in both cases, or actually all 3 cases that we're presenting today, we don't believe it will cause an undue burden on library users or library staff.
Any questions or comments for Heidi?
I think the synchronizing policy is a great idea. I'm surprised we didn't think of it earlier.
Agreed. Thank you for bringing that forth, Heidi. If there are no questions, then we could use a motion to approve the changes to section 4, use of the library, as presented.
I move to approve the changes to policy section 4 as presented.
I second.
We have a roll call, please.
Paul,
Yes.
Lenny,
Yes.
Pantera. Yes. Susaneski.
Yes.
Clemens.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. And then next we'll move to section 6, which you have not yet looked at this year. And that's on page 44 and 45 of your packet. It's policy 6.01 and policy 6.02. And we don't have any changes that we're suggesting to either of those.
Any questions and concerns with section 6 of the policy? Okay, seeing none, they will remain as is. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to new business. Fiscal year budget fun. So Emily Johnson, our Library Chief Administrative Officer, and Maggie Smith from the Department of Finance will be sharing some information about the fiscal year 26 budget with us. Welcome, ladies.
Great. I'm gonna get this loaded, but we've had technical difficulties, so I will load it from my screen and you guys can just tell me if you want to go to the next slide. Okay.
Well, while Carrie's getting us loaded, I am just gonna kick us off. So I'm Emily Johnson, the CAO for the library, and it has been a little bit since Maggie presented. So just wanted to reintroduce Maggie Smith. She is our budget office liaison, helps with all things budget related, including today presenting on the FY26 budget. So I'm gonna kick it over. Take it away.
Okay. Great. Next slide. So we'll just go over a quick overview of budget preparation process, as well as where we are in the annual timeline. And then we'll go over a high-level summary of everything that's contained in the library's budget for fiscal year 26, which is going to start on October 1st, 2025, including the 3 different funds you see there. Go to the next. So just a kind of reminder of some of the basics around our budgeting. The City of Boise does a balanced budget by law. Our expenses do not exceed our revenues. City departments ensure that funding for the next fiscal year will align with strategic priorities, provide impact to the community, and the budget process ensures that we have sufficient funds for all of our ongoing services each year, our personnel and all of the costs that are escalating for just the main operations we have. So this is where we are in the timeline. So fiscal year 26 budget process going to begin in February with meetings between the various department directors in the mayor's office. On April 9th, Eric Villamoria came and presented to this board on the budget process, but also on the general fund forecast. April 1st, we started collecting input from the public through our website. And on the 20th of May was the first City Council budget workshop. This provided kind of an overview of what's contained in the budget citywide and allowed the council to ask questions that our staff is kind of getting more information to present at the second budget workshop, which will be on June 24th. So June 11th, here we are, and we'll go over the budget today and that'll be a motion to approve. The budget document, the book itself, is going to be released this Friday. That's the whole citywide budget. We're sending that to the print shop today. And June 24th, the second budget workshop, followed by a public hearing on July 15th, in which the public will be able to give testimony. And the budget will be officially adopted on August 26th. So for the new fiscal year. So the library's budget has 3 funds. You'll see actually in your packet, there are some reports here on the general fund. It shows a look back of the last few years, as well as the current year where we are year to date and where the proposed budget is next year. And it gives quite a bit of detail down to the account level. But the general fund is used for the annual operating budget, all the general personnel and operating costs. The capital fund will be just for the major projects and major equipment for the libraries, and the heritage fund is where the library's donations are accounted for. So the general fund primarily comes from property taxes. It covers our regular ongoing business costs for one fiscal year. And in the general fund, the budget does not carry forward from year to the next. So any unspent budget reverts back to the general fund pool at the end of the fiscal year. So we budget for both the revenue side of the library and the expenditure side. So revenue that's received by the library does go into the general fund.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yes.
I was just thinking about your comment that applies to the capital fund too. Doesn't roll over if it's unused from the prior year.
It actually does, it operates a bit differently. So it's, it doesn't automatically, but there is more of an understanding that the capital projects are multi-year projects. And so the rollover process, actually, we do a formal, we kind of quantify each of it. Each of it is associated with a given particular project, but it's more common for those funds to roll forward.
And that's usually in November or December is when we bring to the board the rollover on the capital budget. So if you might remember from that sort of cadence of meetings, when they've closed the fiscal year and they know what's rolling over in the capital budget, then we bring it to the board for that. So we'll bring that back, particularly because we've got some significant capital projects that we are managing, and that fund does have more flexibility in the rollover.
I think a term we typically use is the rebudget, but that's that rollover of the capital.
We're anticipating 373,000 in revenue for the library this year. So the three largest drivers there are courier revenue from Links consortium members, as well as cost recovery for the system share for software related costs, as well as miscellaneous revenue from recovery of lost and damaged materials. And then the next slide just shows a visual there of each of the revenue categories. So you can see that courier and system share, the Links consortium related pots are the largest. The expense budget comes to 19.1 million. There's a breakdown of kind of the four largest areas there, personnel being the largest, indirect costs being services provided by internal service departments throughout the city. The operating costs and then materials have been broken out separately from that. Overall, the library's budget represents 5.2% of the overall general fund budget.
Questions at the end or as we go?
Please go, yeah.
So the slide that 5.2%, right? How is that compared to the year?
It's very similar. It was 5% last year.
So it's actually slightly up in terms of a percentage of the whole budget. Right there.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so here again, just shows personnel and indirect costs be those, the largest areas of the expense budget, followed by operating and materials. Okay.
All right. I get to talk about what new items are in our 26 budget outside of the categories that Maggie was just talking about. And so in the FY26 budget, we do have funds allocated for an auto sorter to be installed at our Bound Crossing library. This will be our third sorter. We have one downtown. We are installing one in Cole-Newstick this year, and then we'll get to install one at Bound Crossing next year. So in that fund, we've got a total of 290,000. 190,000 of that is for the actual equipment for the sorter, and then we've got 100,000 to retrofit the space at Bound to make sure we've got room for the auto sorter. And then there is a $14,000 ongoing. It's just the system support that will happen every year to make sure that we can continue to use the auto sorter. So that'll roll into our budget ongoing, as we know that's a cost that will be incurred every year. And well, I stole the thunder a little bit from the last bullet point. This will be our third sorter in the system, which we're really excited about to help support that staff and be more efficient so we can serve the community a little better. So we're excited to have that in the budget next year. I'll kick it back to Maggie now.
So the personnel budget, what's been built into the base citywide is a 2.6% base increase for all employees, as well as some funding for one-time merit incentives that can be given on a more discretionary basis. We're maintaining low or no cost health insurance plans for all employees, and we will see a PERSI increase, so the contribution rates will increase slightly, so we've budgeted for that.
And the first increases it to both the employer and the employee.
Yes, it will be. Yeah.
Percentage is the same. The increase for each.
That's a good question. I do have the numbers of like what the increase is, but
I said it's extreme.
yeah,
It's a big jump for Percy, but then Percy's having some issues.
yes, some news that came down recently is that the increase that was planned to go forward July 1st of this year was actually going to be moved out to July 1, 2026. So it will have a lesser impact on fiscal year 26, but it's still planned to go into effect. So this is a breakdown of the indirect cost budget. It's 6.5 million for FY26, and it's a bit small here, but it's just a list of all of the internal service departments. So our city controller takes the costs of providing all those services internally, and then proportionally charges that out to each of the departments that receive the services. So there's a breakdown. The largest, the largest being, building maintenance, which is, this one was, recently became part of an indirect cost in the last few years, as it used to be within the library's budget. Depreciation, IT, those are the largest drivers. Here's the material. This is looking at just 7 years of the materials budget. So 1.4 million is included in the base for FY26. This is a decrease from FY25. There was 350,000 of one-time money that was not authorized again in FY26. So you'll see that decrease there. But this just shows a little bit of the trends over time. If you have any questions on those, I'm happy to.
I just have a comment, which is it's at a time when the city is growing to the extent that it is. If you look at the data, the number of users and the amount of materials that are being checked out is growing, and yet the funding that we have available to provide these services is shrinking, and that's disappointing and or concerning to me. I mean, there's other areas where I'm happy with the budget, but there's nothing to be done about it.
Materials as well as physical materials.
It is, yeah. So there's a breakdown.
Just following on Ron's point, the digital materials have been growing at a faster rate than physical materials, so it even makes the problem worse.
And I'll add the third component, which is that our interlibrary loan program, which we decided 2 meetings ago to discontinue. I think there was a general feeling that we would need to then invest more in acquiring content ourselves because we didn't have access to that interlibrary program. So we have more pressure on the budget as well in that arena, the third arena. So just something, I think it's going to be a particularly tough year in 26 to meet the expectations of our patrons at the same time as the budget is shrinking.
We have definitely benefited from having that one-time additional money in our collections budget. Kathy and her team have done a really good job of strategically spending that money, particularly, Brian, to your point about we know how much more expensive digital resources are, and we're seeing just that exponential growth in usage of it. So when we had the one time in that, we really focused on trying to purchase digital materials that we would own. So as you know, a lot of the digital subscriptions are a lease model. So Kathy and her team were super thoughtful about, okay, how are we going to take advantage of one-time costs, one-time resources whenever possible with perpetual access to them. But we are, also looking at, okay, with this, with the city not being in a position where we are able to have that additional money for collections, we will be purchasing less digital resources, and we will see a decrease in the materials that we have available. The math is just what it is, but I really really respect and appreciate the work that that collection team has done to really be thoughtful about what are we buying in print, what are we buying digitally, so that we can continue to meet the needs of our community and their hopes for the library as well. And I do think we will still, with interlibrary loan, I do expect that we will have additional money for those additional purchases.
And then I have a question about the indirect, indirect cost reimbursements. So it's almost $250,000 increase. And I guess I would ask, are we seeing more of that overarching expenses shifting to the library, or is everybody's percent? I mean, some of this is just the cost of personnel across, the budget office and the maintenance office, all the other things that we are, legal, all the other things that we're paying our portion of. Is our share growing, or is it just everybody's share is going up? It's sort of following my logic.
Yes, I'd say it's the latter. It's everyone's share of the direct costs.
It isn't as if it's more of it is shifted to library because we're using more accounting services, using more legal services, using whatever, or it wasn't quite allocated appropriately in the past, and it's now been reconfigured to make that more fair.
One thing I didn't notice, I think there's also maybe just sort of I haven't looked at actually the trend over the building maintenance area may have changed over time as that transitioned from being within the library's budget to an external cost or an indirect cost. There are also a couple of new elements of the administration, such as the addition of organizational effectiveness. So the central administration has grown a bit as well. Those seem like two drivers to me. So the capital fund is also primarily supported by property taxes because of its main source of funding comes from a transfer out of the general fund each year. It's allocated in 3 categories: capital improvement projects, these major repairs and maintenance, and then major equipment. So these they are budgeted as kind of 3 separate buckets. In FY26, you'll just see the library's new investment is all coming through major equipment. There is still a significant amount of major repairs and maintenance funding, and that we plan to roll forward from FY25 and FY26. So you won't see new money in FY26, but that money is already in the FY25 budget. And that is mainly for work going on at the downtown library. Again, projects span multiple years, so rollover is more common. And as they're commonly budgeted. So the major equipment that is included in the FY26 budget, the auto sorter which we talked about. There's also funding for furniture replacement and shelving that can be system-wide. There's also going to be a new courier van, and then the consortium is going to be contributing for a portion of that, the cost of that van. So we're going to get a bit of reimbursement from the consortium. So overall, $570,000 for major equipment. The Heritage Fund, previously there was a library donation section and then also the integrated library system. The fund balance for that was transferred to the new administrator during this fiscal year. So from here on out, the Heritage Fund will just be looking at library donations, how those come in 100%. The remaining balance in the Heritage Fund does, we keep that fund balance going year to year. So this next year, we're expecting about $150,000 in revenue and $250,000 in expense. Again, because of the rolling fund balance that moves forward, the expenses can exceed the revenues in any given year. What donations are tracked, when donors make they designate a specific purpose for that funding, and we track that with a
special project goes. We know that it's not the way that the donors intended it. All right. Questions?
Good one. Do you know how many library employees utilize which health insurance plan? There's two. There's a $0 premium one, and there's another. In the current budget bill, I believe the mayor's proposal is for only a 3% increase in the employer contributions. We've historically done a 4.5% increase. And I think council's gonna have to wrestle with whether or not we wanna maintain those contribution levels at 4.5% to maintain the health insurance benefits for as good as they are. But I'd like to get an understanding about how library employees may choose between the two plans. It only affects, my understanding is it only affects.
Yeah, my understanding is that as well, and I actually don't know the answer to that question, Maggie, do you know? We can find out.
It's important to council to
Yeah.
maintain the quality of that plan.
I have all these questions. So our facilities planning efforts, I don't know where I see that in here. I mean, we certainly have costs for our consultants that I presume we will have into FY 26. Then is there some, a plan is great, but if there's no money to execute anything on the plan for another 18 months plus, I'm a little concerned about the expectation. You know, we did all of these public meetings, the public told us their desires and wants. There's a certain level of frustration that happens when then it's years and years before anything is addressed. So I don't know whether is perhaps, is there some way in the process that between budget years that one can address this, or is it we're just going to have to wait until FY 26? It's a question I don't know the answer to. I don't know how things happen within the city in terms of budget processes that funds set aside for these kinds of major projects.
I will say I have a mention of it in the budget book itself and kind of our capital overview, that it is expected that there will be a proposal coming forward for FY 27. There is a mechanism for interim budget changes. Those can happen mid-year. So it is possible if there was a proposal funding plan, there are opportunities almost every month actually for new budget asks to come forward. What I will say is that there was $50,000 in the FY 25 budget that was particularly for the facility planning effort, and that has not been fully spent yet, and so that will carry forward into FY 26. So I think when there's a larger proposal for what will be done with the facility plan, then we know that that's on its way. Right, that's coming. It's working.
I just add, council shares your sentiment. And we can't take any action until we have a report. So we like the report and we're motivated to put a plan together at that point. I can tell you like a broad view of capital planning across the city. Even if we do get a report, there isn't $20-30 million sitting there to just jump on something immediately. So it would be a multi-year effort if we do find something that we like. We do agree on a vision for what that looks like between library board and council. But we share your same sentiments, and we want to follow through on expectations of the public for service.
It's some of it is just a sheer timing issue. If the budget happens at certain times, we won't get the report till after the budget development is put together. It just means delaying the planning, the execution of the planning. So
we're anxiously waiting.
I know there were multiple funding streams and I can't recall, and maybe Lindsay knows, are any of the expenses for the first floor remodel captured in this budget, or are those coming from separate funding streams?
They're coming out of the current major repairs and maintenance budget. So the in 2025, basically there's still several million in that budget that's being used for the renovations in an ongoing way. And so that will carry forward in FY25, but there isn't any new money being added to it in FY26.
Yeah, thanks, Maggie. That's correct. We've been kind of holding the funds we've been collecting, and any savings that we've seen from the previous remodel projects, again, holding those to award to this first floor remodel. So there's enough money in the current budget to cover those costs, as well as a few of the other projects we have still pending to do with the downtown library. And so we should be awarding that by the end of this fiscal year. And then anything we have will roll over to fund additional projects as they come along. And I guess just to answer Ron's question on the facility planning, we are anticipating utilizing the existing budget for our consultant to get that wrapped up this year. And that's hopefully what we'll be presenting between the board and the council in October, and having a recommendation. And then, yes, it'll be a long 15 to 20 year plan that we roll out, and as the funding mechanisms come to play.
Good. October, why October? Seems like last meeting we said you would even have a draft in May.
Well, we have a draft that we've been working on. The consultant has given us homework in terms of like, okay, here's some of the costs that we need to have local numbers for. We have to do the staffing piece. So we've got a very good draft. We're not at a point where we can, but it is maybe 75% done. And we know how important having the actual, particularly the numbers for budgeting, right? So here's what the facilities might be, but what would be the collection size, what would be the staffing model, what would be the technology. That's the piece we're putting in right now. And then that was the discussion about where that would make sense to, bring that to have a joint work session based on, my conversations with mayor's office about when they think that would work in the calendar for council.
It seemed like the conversation last month was we were waiting for new board members to get something in.
Yeah, so my board will start talking about this in July and August when we have our full board. But that board, and then, that when that report, we'll be able to share that, but then the timing for that joint work session we thought would make sense for October. But yeah, you're right, the report will be earlier than the work session, the joint meeting. And the idea would be to sort of have a joint meeting annually between board and council as a way of making sure we've got opportunities for conversations and alignment going forward.
And then I have one last question for Lindsay, which is my vague memories, this is part of the downtown renovation remodel there was a tiny bit, but not insignificant dollar-wise, of federal funds in terms of a grant. That are those, it's like the new administration, are those grants still there? Are they get clawed back? Are we having to now rethink what we're planning on doing? I wonder what the latest is on that. Share.
We do have the funds from that federal grant. It's about $260,000 in the budget. And so we're still, as we're working through our GMP with the contractor, negotiating how we roll out that portion of the work. But as far as we know, we have not heard any clawbacks on that particular grant. So we're still hoping to capture that.
Spend it quickly.
Copy that.
Any other questions or comments about the fiscal year 26 proposed budget?
Thank you for the update.
We actually need to go ahead and take a vote. So do we have a motion to approve the fiscal year 26 budget as proposed?
So moved. Second.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Oh.
Yes.
Money,
Yes.
Matera. Yes. Kuzinski,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes,
all in favor, motion carries.
thank you. Thanks, Emily and Maggie. Appreciate it. All right. With that, our trustee to review payment vouchers next month is Ron.
Rebecca,
Yes,
we had a question or comment.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, and it kind of follows Heidi's presentation. The management of checkout of items, I'm assuming the physical items in our collection use a library system, of the city's library system. And the digital items in our collection maybe use a cloud solution provided by Overdrive or something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, so we do have some integrations, so you can see your Overdrive checkouts or like Hoopla checkouts in your library account, but it is run by their own separate entity that checks who the user is. So it is talking back and forth.
So you get a one monolithic view across the two systems when you go look at what someone's doing with their books that are checked out.
That's a little bit harder to say yes to. We do have some resources that they can, for example, see and then link to in the catalog, but doesn't actually track as a checkout, if that makes sense.
All right, that's very helpful. And on the checkout of the digital items, there's predictions about when the materials will be available, which is kind of, I've been reading a lot of digital books lately, and I think we take the most conservative assessment of what the predicted availability is. And I'm finding the books are ready a lot sooner than I anticipated. Is that kind of the norm?
So in Overdrive in particular, which is I think probably what you're using most, that's our highest use. Overdrive instituted a new thing. I can't remember exactly when it came in, but it's been several months, where people can just pass the hold along if they're not quite ready for it. So you're right, it takes the conservative look at it's going to be X number of weeks based on how many people are in the queue. But if it comes up for a person and then they're not ready for it, they just pass it along to the next person. It's a great service in some ways, because then it can make it so if a person's been waiting for something and all of their holds come at once, they don't have to take them all at once. It moves the hold along for people in a meaningful way. But then they have 24 hours each to be able to sit on that hold and decide whether or not they want it right away. So it does kind of prolong the process a little bit while also making it faster, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Is it real-time update when books are checked back in, or is it more batched every day, overnight, or something?
It is not batched every day. Real time, it's close. Yeah, it's pinging regularly, but it's not like an overnight refresh.
Okay, last question. This is helping me kind of get an idea how all this works. I was 12th in line or something like for an item. And it looked like there's tracking by the library staff of where there are long lines, and lo and behold, another copy dropped in, and then another copy dropped in, and it reduced the lines for everybody. Is that a?
Absolutely. We look weekly. We analyze each of the titles to see if the holds queue is actually growing or whether it's stagnating and we can let it go for a bit, or if it's it just might have peaked a little bit. And we do real-time assessments on whether or not we should be adding more titles to that queue. We also are trying to take into account the price. So we do now have a tiered structure on when we're trying to purchase and how much of a holds queue we will let build up. That is in direct response to ensuring that we are trying to spend the budget as well as possible to provide a wider breadth of materials. We don't want to just have a popular only lending source. We want to ensure that we're trying to hit the broadest range of our community as possible. So we just had a title for $130. That's a metered access audiobook. We're going to go ahead and buy it because we've had so many people requesting it. But we waited for that to trigger, to push us over into buying it. And then the holds queue, it would have to grow more in order for us to buy another copy. But we are monitoring it.
Thank you. I'm sorry if that wasn't too interesting, but it was really interesting for me.
I appreciate the question.
Thank you for that, Brian. Also, I learned if you return your ebooks or your audiobooks early, it gives you a little flower shower. That's really cute. So that happens too. Okay. As I mentioned before, our selection for our trustee to review payment vouchers this month will be Ron. So Ron will be approving vouchers this month. And your next meeting date will be July 9th. I will miss you, but I will be with you in spirit for that meeting. With that, I will adjourn my last meeting with you all at the Boise Public Library Board of Trustees.
We'll miss you. Everybody here will miss you.
I missed you already. Thank you all so much. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I'm going to adjourn here.
Second.
Oh, thank you.
You do not
Fail.
stay forever.
All right, adjourned.
Bye, Rebecca. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
You can sign right down. Yeah. People here,